Oh, hello and welcome to What Are We Talking About with Jamie Jakes. I am him, and we are here to make you guys some money. Welcome in to the Week 14 NFL preview show. Quick recap of last week. I'm not going to waste any time here, and I am going to pull up this video that I have prepared for all of us here to watch.
Yeah, no, it's very... hold on. Why is the clock stopped? Oh, it's a power outage.
Week 13.
Oh, when did that happen? Oh, in the Super Bowl? Because a man whose music I'm hearing, Joe Flacco, is coming back for this game. He's going to start. DTR is not going to start. Joe Flacco is going to start. Cleveland.
So there you go. You heard it here first. James is an NFL insider. Good job out of you, James. What say you? Congratulations, breaking this piece of news publicly on the internet.
Thank you. It's been an honor. That's my one tidbit for the year. I'm like I'm like a broken clock. I'm good twice a year, so I guess I owe you one more. But maybe if you guys tune into the podcast, maybe if you guys keep showing up every week, watch these, you're going to get some tidbits that you might not get from other sources. Some people might have a couple people texting them on what's occurring in the week. So keep tuning in, and maybe you'll get more tidbits like that.
And maybe he's got the number of a guy he sort of went to college with who publicly talked about Joe Flacco throwing the football just absolutely amazingly when he was announced the starter just about 48 hours after we recorded that episode. So you do have to listen close because James won't tell you when he's joking and when he knows something. But there is a certain college team that he does know a lot of people from, and he has a lot of numbers from. And that college football team happens to have a lot of pros in the NFL. Another
Florida State.
Not Florida State, but I would say a team that Florida State might be upset about at the moment with how
Texas.
The college.
Texas, they're very upset at Texas.
Yeah, they hate Texas. Who doesn't?
That's why.
Or Georgia's probably not a fan of that team either.
Yeah, I would say so. And that's why we were all, or a couple of us are wearing orange for this episode. Moving on to a couple more points, finer points from the recap from last season. Number one, we saw that I feel like this podcast has been doing a good job of spotlighting, especially on the live stream watch parties, which you should subscribe to and watch live with us while we watch these football games. Clock management with the referees, them running the clock at certain times. And I think last week we kind of talked about it, or a couple of weeks ago, we talked about it on one of these preview episodes. This would be a perfect way for referees, especially like first half lines in gambling, to fix games kind of quietly. It's so easy for them to run the clock a couple of times in the first half or stop the clock a couple of times in the first half when they're really not supposed to. And the announcers don't even bring it up. We do on the streams because we are degenerate gamblers and watching the over-unders of these games. And we're like,
we're just professionals, Jamie. Our job is to pay attention, and damn it, that's what we do.
That is exactly
our livelihood.
What we do. It is not our livelihood yet, thank God.
We gotta be able to afford all these losses, bro.
We do have some losses to fund this season, but this season the referees are now finally getting a little bit of criticism for their clock management because they've been fucking up when it really matters. Maybe we should kind of focus it more on a global scale. And I think Miles has said it, like, this is a job. Not that we love jobs getting taken from by AI. Like, I don't want AI deciding the college football playoffs. But hey, maybe we get some AI involved with this clock stopping and clock starting thing. Seems like it would be a pretty easy thing to figure out. The second thing that we saw is even more injuries. Unfortunately, that's kind of been the season. The story of this season is injuries. The NFL has been pushing for 18 games. They went from 16. The NFL, PA, Players Association was like, we don't want it. We want 16. So they compromised on 17 with the thought that one day they will move up to 18. And I'm just not seeing it. Personally, I really liked the length of the season when it was 16 games. You kind of feel like you get a little bit burnt out here in around week 14. And just for player safety purposes, it seems pretty outrageous to me that we are making these players potentially play an extra game when we've had 50 starting quarterbacks, going to be 51 at least by the time week 14 is all said and done. A lot of these teams, especially in the AFC, is like, hey, do you still have a starting quarterback? Then you are in the playoff hunt. You can win the whole conference, basically, is how we're looking at it right now. So I think the 18 games should be entirely out of the question. And it's just been a really unfortunate year for injuries. Introducing my next guest, has already spoken up already, Mr. Ryan Perrio. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing all right. I totally agree with you on the 18-week season. I understand that you want to have a longer season, but I also think you're diminishing the quality of the product with said injuries and stuff like that. And so you're seeing some teams that are really like Jets versus Atlanta, Jets versus anybody right now is just basically hard. It's hard to watch.
Yeah. Thank you for joining, as always, Mr. Ryan Perrio. And yeah, with like the expansion teams on that note, with the quality, like we've got like 18 good quarterbacks in the league at any time. And when some of those 18 start getting injured, you're watching a lot of stinkers. And we got some stinker games coming up, which we'll preview here in a little bit. We won't spend too much time on it. Moving on to Mr. Most Days Off, Miles Francis. Thank you for joining, as always, buddy.
Stoked to be here, though I completely disagree with you guys on the 18-week thing. I think the NFL needs to take a page from the greatest sport on the planet, professional wrestling. Go year-round, no breaks. You have like 4 major bowl games a year, and we're going to get some winners coming through at quarterback that are just like playing from like a really talented, athletic wide receiver with an arm by the end of it. It'll be great.
Yeah, I love that idea. And while we're at it, let's script it, baby. Moving on.
They don't already do that. Come
exactly.
On. Did you not see the Chiefs and Green Bay call there at the end of the game the other night? Come on.
Yeah, getting to the previews. Here we are. Thursday night football. Guys, a game that I am ecstatic about. I am so excited about the Patriots and the Steelers on Thursday night. We're going to call it live, so subscribe, tune in with us. You'll probably only have a good time watching this game if you are watching us streamed, synced up with us at home. So I highly recommend y'all taking advantage of that. We got MVP Mitch, Nickelodeon's most valuable player. He didn't accept his trophy, still can't figure out why he didn't accept it when he did win it after a disappointing loss on Nickelodeon's network, versus Bailey Zappi for the Patriots, very likely. Patriots are absolutely dead. They just got shut out by the Chargers, who aren't known for having a stellar defense this season. The Steelers, however, are currently second place in the AFC North and currently in the hunt for the playoffs this season, which, is important to note in the AFC. They did just lose Kenny Pickett with a little bit of an ankle injury, so we'll see how long it takes him to recover. But Steelers are technically still in it, can technically still be a playoff team. The line is Pittsburgh Steelers -6. The over-under being just 30 points. Going to be a pretty low-scoring affair, but some tough physical football is what we're going to watch, and that's, we love that on this channel. I don't have any gambling recommendations on this one. If I had to lean any direction, I'm going to take the under because the Patriots have not scored a lot of points and not given up a lot of points in the past couple of games. Pittsburgh Steelers offense still stinks without Matt Canada, so I'm going to lean the under 30 points for this game, looking like it's going towards 29.5 at the moment. James, what do you think?
Speaking of what happens to trophies when players don't accept them, yours truly has a Budweiser Man of the Match from FC Dallas from October 18th of 2014 because it was left in a warehouse somewhere. So that Nickelodeon trophy, I'll put it back now we're bigger. Yes, I was the Man of the Match for FC Dallas in 2014.
Congrats, man.
That's how bad they are.
Somewhere. That's in a warehouse somewhere. Yeah. MLS as me as their Man of the Match. So I'm intrigued as to where that trophy is because I kind of want it now because that would be a fun artifact to have.
It'd be a great collection of just unclaimed trophies. I've never heard of anybody doing that before. I'd really love to see you get a shelf in your background.
There's a couple more actually in there. But I'm actually betting this one, and I'm betting the under. I want to see a minimal amount of points. I want to see this defensive matchup. The 6-zip from last week with the Patriots was fantastic. I'm hoping this is 3-0. So I'm taking the under.
Okay, I'm with you. I am also officially gambling the under. Ryan Perrio, what do you think about this game, buddy?
Well, this is just two storied franchise looking to turn the page on this season. This has just been absolutely neither thought this was going to happen. I feel like if again anything, I would lean the under on this. Mitchell Trubisky's absolutely futile at quarterback, so I would seek some interesting parlays on defensive touchdowns on this, because I feel like you could get a pick. This would be a game for a pick six or something, a Bailey Zappi or Mitch Trubisky special. But yeah, I would take the under if there's anything on this. It's going to be, I don't know if there will be a touchdown in this game.
Yeah, that would be an interesting way to hedge your under bet, because it feels like the only way this goes over if there is a defensive score or two. So if you can find that in any sports book, that might not be a terrible thing to take. Miles Francis?
This is actually my first no-brainer of the week, believe it or not. The no-brainer bet is that the stream will devolve into a game of Catan by halftime. This is going to be a pretty rough watch. It's Thursday night, which is not traditionally the highest scoring affairs anyway, with two teams. Cannot seem to put points on the board right now. I'm kind of with y'all. I guess if I had to, I'd bet the under, but I almost just recommend going and finding something fun to do on a Thursday night, or listening to us. That's your best option.
Yes, definitely listening.
Don't try to watch this game without us. It will not go well.
Yeah, that Thursday night crew's sick of it as it is already. So yeah, moving on to the Houston Texans versus the New York Jets here. The Texans are coming off a big win against the red-hot Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos were really playing really well, and continue to play pretty well against the Texans. Texans just pulled off the win. The CJ Stroud is clearly like the lock for offensive rookie of the year. The Aaron Rodgers-less Jets pretty much need to win out for him to come back week 15, week 16 to keep their playoff hopes alive. Aaron Rodgers seems to be in good spirits, was on Pat McAfee show today. And the Texans are 5.5-point favorites at New York. CJ Stroud was also on Pat McAfee today. I'm laying off of this game. James, what say you?
Not much for me on this game specifically. I do have an 8-point teaser that would involve the Texans being moved past 0, but that is outlawed on this podcast. So no pick from me.
Smart decision out of you, Mr. James. Mr. Ryan Perrio?
After watching last week, I feel like there could be a chance that Houston has offensive and defensive rookie of the year the way Will Anderson played last week. 2 sacks, a pass deflection that led to an interception for Derek Stingley. The Texans basically won this year's draft, and basically after the draft, Knicks all pounded the Texans for giving up so much for the number 3 overall pick. Are probably going to revisit that this year. I'd like to hear some draft pundits like Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper eat a little crow for saying we gave up too much. Can't give up too much when you're about to get into the playoffs after your first year as a head coach.
Yep.
And the sweep, maybe all the coach of the year as well with D'Amico Ryans. I can't bet on this. I think this game is going to be an ugly win for the Texans. It's going to be. I don't think they're going to beat the spread. I think the under may be the only thing I would lean on, just because Jets defense is so elite. I really am excited to see this for the Stingley versus Sauce Gardner, though. This is going to be the kind of the story on them.
Yep. Tank Dell out, unfortunately, broken fibula. That was tough to see, but this Houston team has so many good stars at wide receiver, and it's probably honestly CJ Stroud making them look a whole lot better than they actually are, which is really encouraging. They really do feel like they could be the Bengals the first year Joe Burrow came out and started slinging it. Of course, he got hurt that season, but feels like they could be like the Bengals of this year. Same thing with the Packers, where they just get a quarterback that's a little bit ahead of schedule And that thrust the team from expecting to be like 500 would be a good season to like, hey, we kind of got a shot at the playoffs. Head coach of the year, candidate for sure. If you have an early ticket on Dan Campbell for head coach of the year, maybe you hedge it a little bit.
Mike McDaniel, bro, come on.
Yeah,
that's my no-brainer right there. He's the GOAT.
I do love him too, but for head coach of the year, from where the teams were last year to where the teams are this year, I think one of the two, Texans or Lions head coach, is going to get it. Mr. Miles, what are your thoughts on this game, though?
On this game, I do lean towards the Texans being able to cover 5.5, and it's only because the New York Jets are incapable of scoring touchdowns with their offense. Like if they don't get a pick six, they don't get touchdowns. And CJ Stroud, as you already mentioned, still has some good weapons at wide receiver. You didn't mention he also has a couple of pretty good looking running backs back there. They've got the tools necessary to score a touchdown, and if they can do that, they could cover this spread. So I agree with Ryan. It's going to be ugly. But if I lean towards wanting to say the Houston Texans will win by a touchdown.
Okay. So that's a lean for Mr. Most Days Off, Miles Francis. Moving on to the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears. A lot was made out of the way that Lions game went, especially if you didn't watch the first half last week against the Saints. Lions come out to a 21-0 lead, and the Saints kind of start eking their way back into the game, making it interesting towards the end. Either way, Lions do what they need to at the end of the game, and they cover, okay? They covered the spread, which I don't feel like is getting talked about nearly enough for this Lions game because they covered, okay? They covered. So people saying like, oh, this is kind of a sign of the same old Lions, like Saints stink. They covered, all right? They overperformed their expectations by definition. No matter how ugly it looked, they still covered. Dan Campbell, like I said, I definitely the favorite for head coach of the year for the NFL this season.
Your cat just stole something for what it's worth.
I think you just got your stash.
I know. I was watching her, and honestly, she was fucking with the cat feeder earlier. So whatever she's got now, fine with me.
I was worried it was a Ziploc bag full of maybe it was parsley or oregano. I'm not certain, but it looked like it might have been something like that. So you might want to check on it.
Oh, it's cat treats. It's cat treats. It is cat treats. But good looking out, Miles Francis. I'm honestly going to let it happen as long as the audio is fine. Moving on. The Bears stink. The Bears stink. The last time these two teams played, the score was 31-26, and I check my notes. I look over to the over-under. It is, do we have a weather report on this game, James? Because I am going to unofficially hammer the over here. The Lions defense has looked really bad over the past 5 games. The Bears offense is looking a lot better with Justin Fields back in full tilt, and the Lions offense can score a whole lot of points. They already scored a lot of points together this season already. So I'm going to take the over 40.5 as one of my best bets from the week. James, NFL insider, weatherman of the preview show. What say you?
23 mile per hour wind expected on Sunday.
Yikes. Yeah. Okay, I take that back.
Yeah. I would take that back too.
Check the weather before the game. If the wind is below 15 miles an hour, I'm going to recommend this bet. If the wind is above 15 miles per hour, I am not going to recommend this bet. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of people saying a lot of things, you mentioned covered a lot when talking about the Saints game last week. If you watched that game, you also heard the phrase Jameis Winston experience almost 18 times. Because when he came into the game, that announcer said that at least 18 times. I've never heard a phrase uttered that many times. It was incredible.
Accurate.
I don't have a lean on this one simply because Chicago at home in the wind, you never know. If theoretically I could tease past 0, maybe the Lions might have been in it. But again, I can't do that on this podcast. So no pick for me.
Okay. Being real snotty about not being able to Tease through 0. Get over it, James. Ryan Perrio, what do you think?
I feel like James is like Wayne's World when he tries to play Stairway to Heaven in the guitar shop. No tease before 0. Denied. But since it's going to be high winds, it's going to be a very interesting game. I think that this is going to be a old school run the ball football game, and what team's more equipped to do that than the Detroit Lions with the two-headed monster of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs?
Amen.
If it's 23-mile-an-hour winds, I'm curious to see if the Bears can actually even put up points, because if everybody just loads the box, the Lions have the better O-line by far.
That's true.
I feel like they'll take Detroit. They'll cover the spread, because I just think they have a superior run game. I think they did that and you go for 2 and just.
My only concern with that, Ryan Perrio, is that the Bears have a good run game and they have a quarterback that can run, and they've demonstrated that they're kind of getting pretty comfortable with letting him run the football later on in the season. And it just feels like with the way this Lions defense looks, it could be a lot of big runs coming out of Justin Fields. So that's the only thing keeping me off of that. Lions to cover, even though they just covered against the Saints and everyone forgets about it. Mr. Most Days Off, Miles, what do you think?
Another with you guys on most of the points you made, especially with that pending wind. That's so hard to make a call 5 days, whatever it is, before we actually get to see what the weather is going to be like.
Recording Tuesday night. Yep.
Tend to agree with Ryan that I think that duo of running backs would be a really valuable thing in a high wind game. And I hear what you're saying with Justin Fields, but it's a lot easier to shut down one player who does the same thing over and over again, as opposed to an offense that does have a little bit more dynamic options available to them in this setting. So I don't have a strong recommendation, but I do feel that the Detroit Lions will cover a 3-point spread. And if that wind isn't too crazy, this has a lot of potential for an over.
Yep, I totally agree there with you, Mr. Most Days Off. Moving on to the Rams and the Ravens. The Rams are going down to Baltimore to play, and the Ravens are 7-point favorites on the game. The Rams just kicked the shit out of Joe Flacco and the Browns. Last week, I said the Rams were on the quietest 2-win streak in the NFL this season. I still feel the same way. Still feel like they're not getting respect. Felt like in the beginning parts of the season, we saw the Rams come out to a fast start, and then we all kind of saw Stafford go down. They started sucking, and we discounted everything that they accomplished, including Puka Nacua, who's been just incredible, super impressive, on the same path as Jamar Chase statistically his rookie season. So he's been super impressive over there for the Rams. So with Stafford back, obviously the Rams are a lot better. No shit. The Ravens, however, are coming off a bye. They're well rested. They are without Mark Andrews. I'm leaning hard. This is a Jamie Jakes hard lean of the week to the LA Rams. If you're thinking about pulling that trigger and you just needed me to lean that way for you, go ahead and pull that trigger. If not, I don't blame you. James, what say you?
I lean pretty hard the opposite here. I think the Ravens are probably going to run away with this pretty easily. Mark Andrews are not. Might see a lot of Richard, maybe in some fullback tight end slots there. That man plays defensive line and fullback for this team. He is a fabulous member of that team and kind of underrated part of that team. I went a little out of left field here. No pun intended, since Camden Yards left field is where the Ravens stadium is. -10 alternate line for the Ravens, plus 130 is what I took on this one.
Okay. Good for you. I mean, yeah, I get it, right? Because the way you cover this spread for the Ravens is just an absolute blowout. You're not going to get a backdoor cover from the Ravens on this game, right? Because we all know if they have a lead, they're going to run the fucking football and they're going to wind that clock down and they're going to win by 5 points and you're going to, the Ravens are going to win. So, I mean, the Rams could win this game, but there is a distinct possibility that the Ravens just win by 40. So taking that alternate line and giving up those few points, not that big of a deal to me. So pretty shrewd out of you, Mr. James. Ryan, what do you think?
On this game, I'm going to lay off. It's just Ravens are too wildly unpredictable. One week they can win 37-3. The next week they're struggling to put up 17 points. They really struggled against the Chargers. I thought the Chargers might actually upset in that game 2 weeks ago before their bye week. They really need to work on their late game, like play calls and turnovers. They had ridiculous turnovers, and you can't have that late in the year, especially if you have aspirations of being in the top seed in the AFC. You got to clean some of that stuff up. I just can't bet anything on them because I don't, like you said, if they do get the win, they have a 7-point lead, they're running the ball and then putting Justin Automatic out there to kick a field goal. They're just not, even though they're equipped to score a lot of points, they just don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's keeping me off of betting them 7. But, I do like the idea of betting them 7.5 because they do have a distinct possibility of just coming out and blowing out the Rams, who are a little bit on their high horse with a 3-game win streak. So kind of there with you both on this one. Mr. Most Days Off, where are you?
I'm with Ryan, only I'm going to take us further. Not only are the Baltimore Ravens unpredictable, this has been a season full of teams that are just all over the place with hot and cold weeks, more so than NFL. I've seen. Well, yeah, but it seems like it's been, I don't know, with all the injuries and everything that's happening, especially as you mentioned at the quarterback position, it seems like it's been even more extreme. If I had to pick any bet on this, which I wouldn't, I don't lean really any direction, but if I had to pick a bet, I'd probably go with the Rams money line just because they could, as you pointed out, they'll either probably win this game or lose by 40. And why not take the better money?
Yeah, I'm right with you there, Mr. Miles. Moving on to the Jacksonville Jags and the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are dead. I don't know if you guys have heard. But I'm going to officially announce it right now. The only thing keeping this Browns team alive with, to be fair to the Browns, a lot of issues with injuries at quarterback. That can't be understated, even though the quarterback, they kind of put themselves in the position. But you can't predict, you can't blame the injuries on them. So we'll say that. But the only thing keeping this Browns team in the hunt is this defense, and the defense staying miraculously healthy all season. And now we're seeing with Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett, a few injuries pop up that's either keeping them from playing or not letting them play to their fullest potential. The Jags, on the other hand, are 1 game in first place in their division, coming off of a loss this past weekend to the Bengals. The Jags are playing with their backup QB, CJ Beathard, with Trevor Lawrence going out with a sprained ankle. We've always been big old Trevor Lawrence fans. We always like to remind people that Trevor Lawrence is good at football because for whatever reason, that is something that people do forget from time to time. This game over under is 30.5. Christian Kirk also going to be out. Browns defense has been good throughout the season, not been great as of late. The Jags were still able to score a whole lot of points, even with Trevor Lawrence going down in the game. The Browns have been giving up a lot of points. Joe Flacco got demoted to practice squad again, which is interesting. I don't think anybody claimed him off the practice squad, which is good news because it feels like he's going to start this week, even though Kevin Stefanski was not committal, whether it'll be him or DTR. Joe Flacco did play great for a man who hasn't played football all season and just got introduced to the team last week. He was 23 of 44 for 254 yards, 2 tuds, and 1 interception, which is pretty good. But he definitely passed the eye test. He was throwing a really, really pretty ball, had a lot of juice left in that arm. Kind of let the coaches know that on a throwaway play early on in the game on like 3rd and 16. The Browns are 3-point favorites only because the Jags have a quarterback out. I'm going to lean to the over on this game. I want to bet the over, but maybe this Browns defense kind of turns it around this week. Has a get right game. So maybe taking a lean towards the over, taking a peek at the Cleveland Browns team total offensive scoring. James, what say you?
Yeah, it was an interesting game last night. CJ looked great in that final drive of the regular period, but in overtime, they had an atrocious play calling for him, just bubble screens and halfback screens, and for some reason forgot that he just drove down the field to tie up the game to get them to overtime alone. So if they had looked a little better on Monday night on that second drive, I might be taking the Jaguars money line. I think really this comes down to your confidence in will the Jaguars be able to get an actual game plan together within the short week for them being on Monday nights. My answer to that is no, so I don't have a bet. But if you do like feeling about that, then I would say Jaguars plus 136 is valuable if you have that belief in your heart.
Yep, I agree with you. If you're a 50-50 guy, I like that 136, but I'm right there. I can't talk myself into it. Ryan, what are you thinking?
I actually will take the Jags in this game.
Okay.
As someone that's watched them firsthand, I think especially if Flacco's starting, just because Jacksonville has a legitimate pass rush and Flacco is not known for his mobility. And so I feel like if he starts, then that could be a real key factor in this game. I think that Jacksonville can win this game. I think the Browns are, again, trying to find somebody that can at least kind of hold the ship, but with those defensive injuries going down, I wonder if that's just they're just not going to have enough to keep the Jaguars out of the win column.
Yeah. The first scene in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean where Captain Jack Sparrow is riding in on the crow's nest of his ship and it just like bottoms out on the shore and he steps onto the dock. That's where I feel like the Cleveland Browns are at this point of the season. They're still in the playoffs if the season ended right now, but I think the Bills might be taking their spot if I had to guess. Ryan, Mr. Most Days Off, Miles, Francis, what do you think?
I actually think that Joe Flacco has a very good shot of coming in this week and looking much better than he did last week, which we already said he looked pretty good. I mean, he's going to have another, get some of that rust off, have another week to do that. I also think Trevor Lawrence was really the heart and soul of that offense, which is going to be rough. But I wouldn't bet any of those things. I would bet prop bets that ETN is probably going to have a really great game.
That is always a safe bet to make this season. ETN guy was my number one bust candidate for this season. Prove me wrong. He's looked absolutely spectacular.
I think with a second string quarterback, there's always a likelihood that they're going to rely more on their running game. And I think that's what we're going to see is going to be an ETN driven game. And if it's not, I think that's really the only way that the Jaguars can beat the Browns at this point.
Yep. So it is to be determined who's going to be starting. Apparently the man who broke the news, non-committal himself, which means to me that even Amari Cooper doesn't know who's starting for this game. Moving on to the Panthers and the Saints. The Saints.
I'd be more worried if Amari Cooper's going to play than Joe Flacco.
Well said, Mr. James. Well said indeed. Where are we? We are at the Panthers and the Saints, which is a game that's happening next week. The Saints are 5-point favorites at home. The over-under is 37.5. I have no leanings on this game. James, what do you have?
I just hope somehow Taysom Hill gets the start. That's all I want from this game. Yeah. Other than that, nothing on it.
Ryan Perrio?
I think funerals will be more well attended than this game.
Well said. Miles?
This is my legitimate first no-brainer of the week. The New Orleans Saints are going to dominate the Carolina Panthers. I don't know what y'all aren't seeing. They just put up 28 points against the Lions in an admittedly weird, mid part of the game that didn't ended up mattering. At what point have the Carolina Panthers proven that they can literally do anything other than put a really dope-ass graphic up before the game starts? The Panther destroying everything, cool as hell. As soon as they take the field, it all goes downhill from there.
Not so cool.
The New Orleans Saints will easily cover this 5-point spread.
Brilliant. I'm glad that we have action on this game. Moving on to a different game, the Indianapolis Colts and the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals are still, in last place. The Colts are still in the hunt for the division. They are second place in the AFC South, looking to claim that first place slot here. Colts are 7-5 as my cat feeder goes off in the background. We're just going to power right through it. The Colts are 7-5, but they only have a 4-point differential if you add together their points scored versus their points against this season. And I think that's just a factor of Minshew just being clutch as fuck. He is basically playing like the 15th or 16th best quarterback in the league. So he could be a legitimate starter in this league going forward. Testament to way that new coaching staff has operated there for the Colts in Indianapolis. It is a rather close spread. The Bengals are 1-point underdogs at home. I am entirely laying off of this game. Money line is even according to this site. So you can't even talk yourself into, a Bengals or a Colts money line situation. James, is that a coin that we're seing here, James?
Well, it might be a coin. An oversized coin from Amazon that I purchased just for the gimmick. You're welcome.
What are we? Do we have a gimmick coming?
No, not for this game. But you did mention a coin flip, so I had to bring it out. It'll be brought out later. Don't worry. For an official bet. Theoretically, if I could have teased two other teams past 0, I would also tease the Bengals in an 8-point teaser that might be available on some online websites. That's all.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, James. Mr. Ryan, what do you think?
I would lean to Jake Browning automatic and the Bengals. He actually looks really good as that game went on. Like he actually looked like another person that could maybe, if given a couple more starts, may work his way into some teams that maybe doesn't have the draft capital to move up. Say, hey, we'll give you a shot, kid.
Yeah,
he looked pretty solid, and he did look great running the ball. When he did that run, like it looked like he was an old man that just kind of like for the first few steps couldn't get it going, then finally. Near the end of the sidelines, he looked like Wile E. Coyote chasing the Roadrunner with his legs, like he had to wind up. But I believe the Bengals will win this game. I think the Colts are just not prepared for this.
Okay, so that is a recommendation for the Bengals from Ryan. Mr. Most Days Off, Miles, what do you think?
Completely opposite take from Ryan. I think the Colts are going to run over the Bengals, easily cover a 1 point. I'm not going no-brainer on this one because Ryan's points are valid that the backup quarterback for Joe Burrow looked better than I expected him to. But that also happens sometimes for a game. And I don't know that one game is enough to make me a believer, especially with the way Gardner Minshew has been connecting with Michael Pittman Jr. just on automatic. I mean, I think that those two could theoretically beat that Bengals team right now.
Alec Pierce got involved too. And people forget Alec Pierce is like 22 and a half years old. So he could come on here, and Minshew kind of said, we got to get this guy involved. And look what they did. Got him over 100 yards for the first time this season. So he's got a chemistry with a lot of guys on that team. And for that reason, kind of the Colts the Colts trajectory and Gardner Minshew's trajectory, along with the Bengals, like I don't want to bet against Jake Browning because I did see what I saw. I guess if I had to lean anywhere, I'd lean towards the Colts actually, just because I want to bet against that overreaction from the Bengals performance this weekend. But that's my only thought on the game. Moving on to, a game that we are all obviously super excited for, the Buccaneers and the Falcons. This game is for first place in the division, y'all. Both quarterbacks are healthy. Both starting quarterbacks are healthy. That means a lot in the NFL this season. Their future is still in front of them. They can make a Cinderella type run, especially with a home game in the wild card round in the playoffs. The Falcons are surprisingly to me 2.5-point favorites against the Buccaneers. This is this has been usually my classic. It's Baker Mayfield plus money against the Falcons. Why not just put $2 on Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers? But I think the Falcons are figuring things out with Artie Smith over there, figuring out how to give the balls to your best players and letting them shine. So because of that kind of same trajectory, I'm laying off of this game. James, what are your thoughts on it?
Coin flip. Coin flip. It's a coin flip. That means we're taking the plus money. I'm taking Joe Burrow. This line started off at 125 this morning. It's already down to 125 already down. What did I say?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow, which would still be the best quarterback in this game if he were allowed to play.
He might still be on crutches.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That would be a bold
I came out of left field on that one. That's what happens when we do this podcast an hour later than we're supposed to. My brain's already out. This line started at 125 this morning. It's already at 115. People are the smart money is currently betting the Buccaneers money line and the Buccaneers spread. So I'm on that train as well.
Okay, I'm with you. I officially also recommend the Buccaneers money line. If you give me not Joe Burrow, if you give me Baker Mayfield plus money, I'm gonna put $2 on Baker Mayfield. Ryan Perrio, where are you putting your money?
I'm putting some money right where you guys are, Baker Mayfield and that money line. I think Mike Evans is primed to have another huge game. He almost had 150 against the Panthers. I think it's Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay is going to take this game.
Yep. Talk about a guy who's if he could just be the 14th best quarterback in the league every single year, you'll make a lot of money off of it. And Baker Mayfield's kind of on that Kirk Cousins, Gardner Minshew trajectory, at the very least at this point of his career. A lot of money to be made that way. Mr. Miles.
Y'all got any more room on that Baker bandwagon over there? Can I hop on? That's the move.
I've been whipping that Baker Mayfield wagon horse all season, and he's really working harder than he was in the beginning of the season. I'll tell you that, Miles.
Yeah, he's again, it's a weird year because you don't actually have to have started as a supreme quarterback, and you suddenly find yourself in the top of the ranks just from all of the injuries and all the shuffling.
Yep. So you're taking
Tampa Bay money.
You're taking Tampa Bay, so we're all on Tampa Bay. Okay, I am gonna take back what I said. Just kidding. We're all on Tampa Bay. Moving on. All right,
Kirk Herbstreit. All right, Kirk Herbstreit.
Moving on to the 3:00 time slot. And Mr. Miles, if you have to leave, bounce whenever you need to. We'll carry the show without you. No worries. But we're talking about the Seahawks and the 49ers. Honestly, a really interesting game to me. 49ers just murdered the Philadelphia Eagles in front of America. The Seahawks lost a close one to the Cowboys, who we all agree, I think, is like an actual good team. This is a divisional game. However, the 49ers won at Seattle 31-13 earlier this season. The 49ers are healthy. So this is a bet for me on the Niners, laying 10.5. This is the biggest spread I have laid all NFL season. So be aware of that, but I'm taking the 49ers, not to steal anyone else's gimmick, but feels like it's 49ers time in the NFL. James, what say you?
Yeah, no, when these two teams met, it was a curb stomping. It'll be a curb stomping again, but I think the Seahawks get more points this time. So I'm taking the over, grabbed it 46.5. If you can still find that number out there, I'd take that over the 47, obviously. But I think both of these teams put up a lot of points. They both had really great offensive weeks. I don't think any of that changes this week. I think the Niners still stomp them, but hopefully Seattle gets a little more points in. Okay,
so you're taking the over 46.5, which I assume is a meaningful half point. All half points are meaningful, but I think that one in particular is a little bit more meaningful than most half points when it comes to over-unders. Yeah, we do have to make, I guess this is a good time for me to make a formal apology to the 49ers. We all were on the Eagles against the 49ers last week. We did have one comment on that video that called us all a bunch of dumbasses. So shout out to
Eagles
you.
Fans? No way.
No, 49ers fan. You guys are stupid. The 49ers are going to win because we all said it doesn't make sense to us. This line doesn't make sense. Turns out he was right. So shout out to him or her in our comment section telling us we're all a bunch of doofuses.
Congrats to that idiot for being right on the internet.
49er69 at gmail.com. If you want to
Yeah, legitimately. Anyways, I think it's Ryan Perrio's turn.
Give me the Niners and also give me the over. I think they're just going to continue to run that machine that is the 49ers offense and Kyle Shanahan. And it's going to be another 40-point game from them, I think.
And the Seahawks have been able to score points as well. So, you can't discount that. Miles?
I'm with you guys all the way on the 49ers on this game. I also do have to bounce. So if you'll let me, I'm going to jump ahead real quick to the doubleheader on Monday night. I have no idea what the lines are. I'm taking a no-brainer on the Dolphins and the Packers regardless. And my last and final recommendation is make sure you are home Sunday night for the best legs in football, followed by what's going to be the best game of the week, the Eagles and the Cowboys.
Hell yeah, we will be live streaming. I announced that we're live streaming that game as well, right? So we'll be on all the primetime games this week. Sometimes we like to mix it up on Sunday. We're going to do Thursday night, Sunday night, and a Monday night doubleheader. Well, we will call both games at the same time, which I'm sure other people have thought of, but we're going to do it and we're ready for it. So
I'm unfortunately not going to be able to take my own advice because I actually have a show in Oklahoma City on Sunday night. So I will probably not be watching that game, but it's going to be a good one. I'll tune into the stream and keep up with what's going on.
Congratulations being booked, by the way, for comedy shows. Mr. Miles Francis at Mr. Most Days Off on social media, local comedian here in Dallas, which is where we record all of these things. Are you free Thursday or Monday night, buddy?
I will double check and get back to you. I think the answer is yes to both. So I'll confirm that with you in the chat. But thanks so much as always, guys. Good luck on all of your gambling this week. I mean, you don't need luck because you've got the script, of course. But always a pleasure, gentlemen.
Thank you, as always, Mr. Most Days Off, signing off of the show, which leaves us to...
You need to put in that scene in Tron where he gets beamed into the universe and then cut to the VR show.
Which leads us to the so we're on the Vikings and the Raiders, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, which is a game that's happening next weekend. The Raiders are 3.5-point underdogs in Vegas. I have no idea what that home crowd will look like with how excited or lack thereof the Vikings are. That's all I'm going to say about this game. James?
Yeah, if you're mandated to put money on this, maybe put the Vikings money line in a parlay. I think it's going to be boring. I think the Vikings will win this one, but it's going to be a snooze fest. Not interested in watching it.
Ryan?
Give me the fighting Antonio Pierce's money line with it. I think I feel he has basically kind of turned the mentality of that team around, kind of the same way Josh Dobbs. Like it's going to be one of those. Both of these teams are just kind of running on a high of change.
Yeah, I suppose so. If I had to lean in any direction, I guess I would lean towards the Raiders as well. But yeah, weird game in that both teams suck, but are kind of on an upward trajectory towards the end of the season. So that's kind of why I'm off of it. I don't want to predict which one is which. The Bills and the Chiefs are playing two sort of disappointing teams. I would say probably the Bills more so than the Chiefs. But the Chiefs have had some big issues, especially on offense. Rashee Rice has been a real saving grace for them in the second half of the season, along with Travis Kelce, giving Patrick Mahomes a second target to throw to. The Bills are fighting for a playoff spot. There was a lot of quietness about the Bills, lack of hype for the Bills leading up to this season. I think we're all kind of exactly seeing why. But Vegas seems to think these teams are both equally disappointing in the way they listed this line. 2.5-point favorites at home for the Chiefs. That Chiefs home field is worth about 2.5, maybe 2 3/4 points. So basically saying these teams on a neutral field are even teams. I have no leanings either way, high over under of 47. This is going to be a fun one to watch. And if the Eagles and the Cowboys weren't playing on Sunday night, we'd probably be streaming this one. This would be my game of Sunday. But I'm not betting on it. James, are you betting on it?
Yeah, I would say if you wanted to parlay this with the Vikings one, this is a possibility. If you're a degenerate, I'm not officially taking it. But I will say that the best Josh Allen in the league is no longer in Buffalo. He's in Jacksonville. I don't expect a lot from Buffalo on this one, but the Chiefs have also been disappointing. So parlay potential here is all I'll say.
How dare you disparage Josh Allen on this YouTube channel? The New York Josh Allen, that is. A Ryan Perrio, what do you think?
I'm laying off of this game. Both of these two teams are so Jekyll and Hyde, especially from what the expectations were coming into this season. It may have some interesting in-game parlays as far as performances by skill position players and quarterbacks. You might keep a lookout for those because this game will definitely be interesting to watch. But I think both fan bases are frustrated with these teams at the present time.
Yeah, a little bit spoiled, more so to the Chiefs side, spoiled fan base. But yeah, I would be a little bit disappointed if I'm a Bills fan as well. So I don't blame them there. The Denver Broncos are playing the Chargers in a game of football. The Broncos just lost to the Texans, kind of snapping their win streak. They were pretty red hot, the Broncos were. The Chargers just come off of what I can only describe as the most embarrassing win of the NFL season, maybe of NFL history, 6-0 over like the useless Patriots. The Chargers are kind of surprisingly favorites in this game. 2.5 points. It is in LA. The Broncos have been on a real path to victory lately, slipping up to the Texans. I have another really, really strong lean towards the Broncos at plus 2.5, but at the moment, not enough for me to recommend it. James, what do you think on the Broncos and the Chargers?
Total coin flip plus money. And we all know that the only time that the Chargers bring fans to the field is when the NFL is planting them or their robots promoting a movie. So no home field advantage for the Chargers here at all. Both these teams could play 100 times. They both could win 50 each. I think Broncos plus money is definitely a value here.
Yeah, that was Broncos money line, Broncos plus 2.5. I think that is the way to lean on this game because it could be just a up and down game, topsy-turvy. Ryan Perrio, what do you think?
Give me the Broncos after watching them in Cortland Sutton against the San Diego's terrible secondary is a nightmare to fathom right now. I think he is going to have a huge game against the Chargers. I think take the Denver money line in the plus 2.5.
Yep. Okay. I'm also going to recommend that. I was waiting to hear what you guys thought. The Broncos plus 2.5 also sounds good to me. Well, you know what else sounds good to me? Some primetime football games, and that's what we're going to get, guys. The Philadelphia Eagles are facing the Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles coming off of a disappointing loss, the 49ers. But remember, the Eagles were running or kind of on the back end of running this gauntlet of really, really tough matchups, kind of getting towards the end of it there. So it kind of makes sense that they have a down week. They have some time to rest now for the Dallas Cowboys, who are also red hot. Dak Prescott currently favorite to win the league MVP. Jalen Hurts, also in the hunt on the Philadelphia Eagles side. I think fourth odds-on favorite to win the MVP. Sounds like legitimately this is going to be, depending on who you believe on the internet, the last year for the brotherly shove or the tush push, whatever you want to call it. The Cowboys are 3.5-point favorites at home. The Cowboys win at home, and they put up a lot of points at home. The over-under is 40 or 53 points. The Cowboys score 40 every single week at home, and I think the Eagles can kind of hang out with them there. But it seems like that over-under is finally starting to react to how dominant the Cowboys are at home. So I am going to take the Cowboys for the first time this season to win and cover 3.5 on Sunday night, which we will be live streaming. Mr. James, what do you think about this game?
I am on the Eagles. I think it's going to be a bounce back game for them. A lot of people are forgetting here that they have a distinct advantage in the fact that they have a security officer that will get opponents kicked out of games for fighting. which I guarantee you Philadelphia will pay that fine any day of the week. That is a great competitive advantage. I really hope he's there. I honestly didn't see that much bad that he did now that we're talking about this.
Yeah.
He got in between them. He tried to break up a fight. I'm not quite sure why the NFL is acting like that is a bad thing to occur. And a player should never punch somebody who's trying to stop people from fighting. So maybe that's something you should look at in your league office instead of saying that this random guy should get fined a lot of money for keeping people safe. Sorry.
So that's a great take out of you, Mr. James. I think Big Dom is the guy that was at. Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
The guy.
He's the most Italian Philadelphia looking man. And normally those guys would be the ones starting the fight. So I think that's also another level that we need to appreciate, that a Philadelphia person was not trying to start a fight.
According to my sources, they sat down, they broke bread, they had a conversation with each other. And I think both sides got everything all figured out. So happy to hear that, according to my sources. Ryan Perrio, what do you think?
I'm also leaning the Eagles. I don't know if you watched the first half of that game. I thought the Eagles kind of play with their food a little early there and really left the door open for 49ers to run 6 straight touchdowns on those first. When Jalen Hurts was just standing back there, then was surprised that he had a pass rusher and slipped down for probably the easiest sack of the season.
Yeah,
I think people are just taking that a little bit too extreme as far as the Eagles are kind of done. I know they've won ugly, but I think the Eagles had a chance to score touchdowns, but shot themselves in the foot with those early possessions that resulted in just field goals. I think the Eagles are going to win this game, and everybody is going. Dak Prescott's it's going to probably cause Dak the MVP, just because if Jalen Hurts outperforms him, I think it's just going to shift the light off of the incredible progress he's made, which is sad. But I think the Eagles are going to win this game.
Okay, so that's a little bit of crossfire, a lot of bit of crossfire between the two of us, which, normally makes me feel better about the situation. Moving on to our Monday night doubleheader. I can't wait for this, guys, because I feel like we are built to call 2 games at the same time. We've been kind of doing it, dabbling in that range, calling 4 games at the same time with NFL Red Zone on as well for these early time slot games. The Tennessee Titans are playing the Miami Dolphins. The Titans have been really, really bad this season when it comes to winning games. They beat the Bengals before Joe Burrow kind of figured it out early on in the season in October 1st. Since then, they have had 2 wins over the Panthers and the Falcons, back when the Falcons were not handing the ball off to Bijan Robinson. The Dolphins' offense has been so fun to watch, and that's why they are 13-point favorites here at home against the Tennessee Titans. I am laying off this one. Of course, I would lean the Dolphins minus 13 points, but the Dolphins have been known to have a couple of down games offensively this season, and why not against a well-coached team? That is the Tennessee Titans with Vrabel over there. James, what do you think?
Yeah, there's one thing that the Dolphins have shown that they're very good at. It's beating bad teams. And the Tennessee Titans are a bad team. The over right now is 47.5. The team total for the Dolphins is 30.5. Do I think the Titans are worth 2 touchdowns with the 2-point conversion? Hell no. Dolphins team total over 30.5. I think they're going to run up the score. I think they'll hit on their own. I don't think they'll get to 47.5, just simply because the Titans would have to score to probably get there, in my opinion. But I think the Dolphins put up a lot of points and do a great job. So I'm taking their team total at over 30.5.
Brilliant, James. And then Ryan Perrio?
I'm laying off this game. The only thing is, if maybe Derrick Henry plays, then I would maybe lean the over, just because I think that he's the only way Tennessee can score offensively. Will Levis he had chances to win that game against Indianapolis and looked absolutely futile on those passes. Like, he just missed open receiver after open receiver. He's kind of having a little bit of regression after that first 4 touchdown game that he had in the sweet old Oiler unis. But yeah, I'm laying off this game. If anything, I would lean the over if Derrick Henry were to clear concussion protocol and start.
Yeah,
I will lean that Derrick may not pass that. There's your little tidbit for the week.
Okay, so that is an inside scoop from NFL Insider, who does have ties to certain college football teams.
Texas, the University of Texas. major. Been in Austin my whole life.
I remember Derrick Henry running the ball for Texas. That was a fun time to be alive. And okay, so Derrick Henry not playing this week. Does that move the line at all to Dolphins?
I think
14?
This line is accounting for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's probably kind of.
But I will say it's not guaranteed that Derrick's out. So I do think if Derrick plays, I think they would get those touchdowns. I totally agree with that. I just don't personally think Derrick's going to play. Concussion protocol, bad team, that not a lot to play for. You don't really want to mess up the main guy, but he could play because he does love football. I'll tell you that. He's not one to be kept off the field.
I believe that. I do believe that. Sounds like he's not playing. Moving on to the other side of the Monday night doubleheader, the Packers, the red hot Packers, coming off a win against the Lions, coming off a win against the Chiefs. Those are two good football teams, in my opinion. Vegas thinks those two teams are good football teams, in their opinion, just the way they're being scored. The Giants, I mean, they suck still. This is an overreaction in the way of the Giants, because there's no way that I get it. The Packers haven't blown anybody out this season, but they haven't since Jordan Love has come off of his bye and looked like a totally different quarterback. He was making some crazy throws, huh? Yeah. He was putting the ball in some really, really, really small holes. Christian Watson not going to play. Don't think that matters. He hasn't really played all season, at least up to Christian Watson standards from his first year. Romeo Doubs is still playing, and he's healthy. We are recording Tuesday night, right? So we don't have news on Aaron Jones, whether he's coming back for this game or not. This is, one of our classic Tuesday night specials where we just got a free roll where I like a side. I'll be interested to see what the other guys think. Where I like a side, and that side is the Packers -6.5. And we get a free roll because if Aaron Jones comes back, I feel like he's worth 2 or 3 points. And I don't think him coming back is baked in to this line like the Derrick Henry side is for the Titans is baked in. So I am taking the free roll with the Green Bay Packers -6.5 on Monday night, if anything, to make me engaged and excited when we are casting this game live on Monday night. James, what do you think?
Yeah, I would probably put this line at a 4.5. Jordan Love has looked impressive for the last 2 weeks, but he has also been finally motivated for the last 2 weeks. I think when he cares, he's a great quarterback. When I think he doesn't care, he's a shitty quarterback. And this is a great team to overlook and not really prepare for. So I like 245. I'm not betting it yet because I do think Aaron Jones comes back and that number goes up even higher. But I think the Giants can pull this one off at home. I think it's going to be a boring game. I think you're going to be tuned in for the Dolphins-Titans one a lot more. And I think that Giants money line could probably hit.
I think you're out of your mind. But that is a plus 240, maybe plus 300 when Aaron Jones gets pronounced.
It's going to be 260. 260 is the number I'm looking for. And if I see 260, I'm pulling the trigger.
That's insane.
Did he use the coin for that? Did you use the coin for that while we were preparing for the show to make that call?
No, I promise you there's method to the madness, guys. I promise.
Ryan Perrio, what do you think on this one?
I think we're missing the bigger reason the Packers have turned the season around is their defense. Yeah. They have absolutely laid the wood on some top tier teams with Kansas City, Detroit. They have come, and I think that's just going to be too much for Tommy DeVito to overcome. I think the defense basically keeps the Giants off the points, and I think the Green Bay Packers are going to score enough to cover.
Yeah,
I think it's Green Bay.
I love it, and also the Chargers. Not as impressive wins as the Lions and the Chiefs, but Chargers are a good offensive team when they're not playing the Patriots in garbage bowls. But yeah, I think the Packers are kind of being a little bit disrespected here. And Aaron Jones is being extremely disrespected here because if he does come and play, he's worth 1.5 in my opinion. And that's a lot of value that you can get there. My name's Jamie Jakes. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, leave a like. James, not a public figure, is an actual for shoot NFL insider, which we've proved at the beginning of this episode. Thank you for being on, buddy. What do you have to say to the audience?
Just remember that if Georgia had won on Saturday, Texas still would have gotten none over Florida State, and you would be more mad at them than anyone else. So when anybody keeps DMing me about Alabama, just remember that Texas would have hot Florida State too. We just happened to win a game against the number 1 team. Sorry.
Sorry about it. Sorry about it. Sorry.
I'm not sorry.
Congratulations to you and your Alabama Crimson Tide. Those young boys over there are playing extremely well for the Crimson Tide. And I'm really excited because I got a little ticket, like a little tasty ticket. I have a tradition in college football at the beginning of every season over the past 3 or 4 years. I have bet Alabama and Georgia to win the national title. Both would be positive money, so one of them hit. I cash. Been pretty happy over the past few years, and then I do not make another college football bet on the rest of the season. So that's kind of how I treat things. Happy to see Bama in. Maybe gonna hedge a little bit with Michigan. Anyways, Ryan Perrio, thank you to you for coming on the show as well. At Ryan Perrio on all platforms. You would want to follow him on. What do you have to tell the audience?
I will be at Hyenas in Fort Worth on Thursday, December 7th. Come check that out if you're in the Fort Worth area. It's a 325 show with me, KG, comedian, and Charity Lester.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of all of them as well. Thank you, and good night. Hey, Meatloaf. Stop that. And we're recording.